I wanted to just get started with your story.
Okay.
So, it's really tough to dive into these things, but I guess with the fullness of time and being, more mature, what do you understand about your relationship with your body that you didn't at the time?
Well, I think that I always thought my body was wrong when I was a kid. And so that's really what started my whole journey with a troubled relationship with both food and body
Yep.
and exercise, as a matter of fact, all of it. So right from the time I was born, I was adopted. And so I was adopted into a family, and my brother, who was also adopted, much different body type, looked completely different. So tall, blonde, blue-eyed freckles. And I'm short, stocky, chubby as my parents, chubby little baby, stocky and sturdy. Those are kind of the words that my parents used to describe me. There was a scale in our bathroom, so they weighed they weighed themselves every single day. So weight was part of the story and part of the thing that I knew my weight was a problem almost right from the get-go because I didn't look like other kids. I didn't fit into clothes that my friends were wearing. I remember very vividly going to the back of the store at Sears to the Husky section, not being able to fit into the regular kids' clothes. And so all of these kind of subliminal messages ended up making me realize that I needed to do something about my body. My body was wrong. I needed to change my body. And that's what led me actually into an eating disorder as a teen in the 1970s. So when they didn't really know what an eating disorder was.
How did you, how did it
Go
start?
ahead.
Like, how did it exhibit?
It was actually because I write about this in my book, seventh grade gym class, where we were first given gym uniforms and having to go up and ask for a larger size because the size didn't fit. And then it was this spiral of internal dialogue that I have to do something. My body is wrong. All of these, I don't look like any of these people. And the only thing I knew was that food was the enemy. Food was the problem. My mother had already started changing the way I was eating at home versus my brother, right? And so food rules started at home, watching out for snacks and cookies and those kinds of things, making sure I would have limited or none. And so those are the things that started to really set the stage for, okay, so food's the problem, so let me just stop eating. And basically I only ate what I had to eat in front of my parents. I didn't eat very much at school all day long, and I just started to slowly disappear. And it's unfortunate because we hear this today too, all through time. I'm 60, I'm over 60 years old now. And my whole life you hear this. Oh, you look so great when you lose weight. So weight loss starts, and then, oh, you look so great. So you get encouraged, but then that can also become a problem because you're like, well, if I look great now, what did I look like before? And what were they thinking before? Right. So it just becomes this whole big dilemma in our heads. And so we get so confused around what we're supposed to look like and always comparing ourselves to others. And so,
Yes. How people
yeah.
react when you lose weight still. I thought
Hmm.
I was a curvy girl. I was a chubby kid and too, and I noticed that years ago. Oh my God, you lost a ton of weight, like making such a big deal. It's only in my early 50s that I started to notice who would say, because I had a lot of autoimmune stuff, so I was going up and down, and I started to
Yeah.
notice that people who were making a really big deal of my weight loss, and then thinking it's them, right? It's their issue.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
Gosh, it doesn't feel good because it feels so good to get the attention, but then it doesn't last.
Yeah.
And then thinking, you start thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, and a ton of weight. Thanks a lot. Like, come on.
Right. I know. I know. And people think they're well-meaning, but you're right. It's their stuff. It doesn't have anything to do with us. And I will tell you, when I was probably at my smallest weights, I was the least healthy.
How did you feel?
No energy, but also the voices in my head, right? The negative self-talk and the counting and the calculating. And, I would think about like 90 to 95% of the time in my head was all about what I was going to eat, what I didn't eat, what I did eat, what I should eat, did I exercise, how much, like all of that for quite a few years. And I really think I missed out on about 3 years of junior high and high school until I got enough help to kind of get, I always say better enough, because they just didn't have quite the right type of therapy then to really help me. And so, unfortunately, I went into fitness for my career because I thought that that would make me stay in a body that was accepted. And so I had a very destructive relationship with exercise. and fell back into eating disorder behavior a couple of different times in my life when things were difficult. And it was really when around the menopause and around that time when my body started to break down and I just was like, I've got to do something different. This is not working. I need to figure this out at some point. And so with the past and the understanding, I went back to school, and that's when things changed. To realize, my gosh, it's no wonder I was trying to diet and then it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so that I was always up and down the scale. So it was a lot of the education and the therapy for me that just pulled me out of the trap that I had put myself in. And I call it a prison, right? Prison.
Yeah. I want to come back to the menopause piece because I think that's really interesting. But I have never worked in the fitness industry. I used to be an athlete, a figure skater, but I've run a health and wellness site. So I spent a lot of time around people. And it's my observation that a lot of people working in health and wellness and fitness have eating disorders and are projecting that onto the people that they train. And I would even say in the menopause space, some of the biggest names may have that issue as well. I don't know. That's a big loaded question to ask you, but coming from where you're coming from, you went into the fitness field. What do you think when I say that?
Well, I will tell you that I saw it firsthand for a lot of different instructors and personal trainers in the wellness space. And I raise my hand and say I was part of the problem. I know I was part of the problem, and I own being part of the problem. That's why I do the work now that I do, so that I can at least start to be part of the solution. Because I'm very, very frustrated with the way the fitness industry has. I think it's turning a little bit, but I think that there are some great fitness people out there who are body neutral, right? Who aren't in that space of food restriction and over exercising and burn more and all that kind of. So I do believe that there are people out there that are really being supportive and helpful in a weight neutral environment. I also think that there's different places that are feeding the eating disorder behavior, the compulsive exercise, the calorie restriction, and how do we start to change the conversation around bodies themselves so that we can have a different, more friendly relationship with food and exercise.
Well, it's very concerning because everyone is so, the famous people are all so thin. The pendulum has swung right back. It seemed like I just felt like I could be healthy at any size and happy with my curves. And now we're back to,
I know.
Yeah. How do you feel about that part of it?
Well, I think, and I feel you're alluding to the GLP-1 weight loss medications, right? And I think that, or GLP medications, because there's more of them coming out. I think that absolutely that all of a sudden we are having more focus on smaller bodies and that smaller bodies are better. And I do believe that the body positivity and the body neutrality movement, we're working really hard to get people to feel comfortable in their bodies, regardless of size and shape. So there is much more attention on bodies now. And I do believe that the GLP medications for some people can be really helpful. And then for others, I think they can be really harmful. And so it is kind of taking a look at this and what are the reasons underneath why people are moving towards these medications and what does that look like? Because if it's only for weight loss, that can be a problem.
Yeah.
There's other things that I think that the GLPs are helpful in. One of the things that I will say, because now I talk to people both who have decided to move into medication and who have decided not to, right? I'm a firm believer of body autonomy, right? Your body, your business, but just make sure that if you're going to choose to go down that road, that you have the behaviors down. So you understand that this isn't just a magic pill. And I think that's what our culture is making it sound like. It's just do this for a little while and you'll be all set. And unfortunately, we know that that's not the case.
What do you make of the food noise part of the conversation? Because I totally know what people are talking about. That's a fantastic term. I feel like it probably came from the pharmaceutical industry. They're really good at coming up with terms like that. I'd like to investigate, but it's a great term. Came out of nowhere. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was around. But I wonder, I think anyone who's struggled with this knows what that means. And maybe not even food noise, but just like, it is even food noise. If you're restricting, that's noise as well. Like it's all noise. So I wonder, how did that resonate with you when that sort of came to the surface?
Yeah, that was what was happening to me most of my life,
Yeah.
right? It's the counting and the calculating and all
Yeah.
the always thinking about food. And what these medications are doing is they're hitting the reward center of the brain, which is it's a physiological response. So we talk about behavior, what are the behaviors? The medication is hitting the dopamine reward center of the brain, so it's quieting the food noise.
Yeah.
And so I have had people say to me, the food noise is gone.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it's like to be normal,
Yeah.
and not even understanding that this was available, like possible. So, but if somebody stops taking a medication that's causing a physiological effect like that, that's coming back. And I've heard it,
Yeah.
so there's evidence of that.
How do you get rid of the food noise? Like, you can get rid of the food noise without taking a GLP
Yeah.
medication. So that I'd like to speak to that. How did you get rid
Yeah.
of the food noise, or how did you manage it, or what happened?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I went right to what I've heard, right? Because of our conversation of where we were. But I will tell you, the one decision that I made that quieted my food noise is I just decided I was never going to diet again. I said that I'm done.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Yeah.
We have proof that it doesn't work, physiological proof that it doesn't work. I've got to figure this out a different way. And so between telling myself I'm never going to diet again, and then starting to think about my body. So I started to change the perspective around my body. I stepped away from appearance based, always looking at my appearance, and really started to focus on all the things that my body did for me my whole life, and then continues to show up for me and does for me today. So I really focused on the function of my body, my strengths, what makes me feel comfortable, listening to my body, listening to when it's hungry, listening to when it's getting full, listening to when certain foods feel really good and other foods don't feel that good, just kind of understanding and being more curious and not critical and judgmental about both food, exercise, and my body. So I did a lot of, I did a lot of divorcing of the connections that our society makes, right? Worth and weight. I pulled those two things apart, because my worth is not the size of my body. I pulled apart exercise for changing our bodies or weight loss, and I made it about independence and quality of life and stress reduction, right? And then I made food just food. Food's just food. And so by doing those different perspective shifts along the lines of that spectrum, things started to change.
So it sounds like menopause was a turning point, or perimenopause was a turning point for you. How so? What was going on that made you think, I can't do this anymore? We all of us who go through it have our walls that we hit, right? But how did
Right.
it feel for you? Yeah, what was the catalyst?
Well, it's interesting because my body just started to change again.
Yeah.
And I felt okay with it for the first time in my life. I just decided that it wasn't going to be, I didn't want to go back to the way I had behaved my whole life, right? I think the soul searching that I did, I had some issues with my body, like my physical body breaking down, specifically a knee problem that plagued me for a very long time. And when I finally was resting after a knee replacement, in early stage for a knee replacement for me, and so it's about 16 years ago now. At that time, that's when I really started to just, I have to do something different. I have to think differently about my body. And because I had been doing that work when menopause hit and things really started to shift around where my body, like how my body was carrying weight, some of the cravings that I was getting, some of the energy that I was losing, some of the brain fog, like all the little things that I was starting to realize, this is just, I get to go through this. I'm not forced. I get to, versus, you know what I mean? We're going to go through it anyway.
Yeah.
But I guess I thought of aging. I flipped the switch. It's a really interesting question, because I've never really thought about it like this, right? At this moment, I'm thinking to myself, I like aging. I've decided that it's like I've gained so much wisdom over my life, and my body is going to do what it's going to do. And as long as I keep listening to it and treating it with respect, I don't have to love it, right? I can just treat it with respect moving forward. And that's really, that kind of foundation has changed the way I see my body,
That's
regardless of all
beautiful.
the changes.
That's beautiful. Now, also, perimenopause can be a time when it triggers eating disorders. We know this. So,
Hmm.
what do you think is going on there?
It is the old stories that worth equals weight,
Yeah.
right? And so if I don't look a certain way, or my body is changing and now I don't look how I'm supposed to look due to the society and social media and everything that we see, the only thing that we turn to is dieting and weight loss. That's the only thing that we think about turning to rather than changing our perspective around the fact that no, I have to start to think about how to feed my body so that I can continue to do the things that I want to be able to do.
Yeah.
But our first instantaneous thought when the body starts to change or we start to put on weight is that I have to go on a diet or I
Yeah.
have to start calorie restriction. And if you've been down that road before, the body is very smart and it realizes exactly what you're doing. And the next thing you know, you're gaining weight again, right? Because of the on again, off again cycle.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about body neutrality and body positivity, but body neutrality. How does that work in practice?
The thing, body positivity was actually a fat activist movement back in the 60s.
Oh,
And then, oh, yeah, I know. And then right around 2010, 2012, it just got kind of um, hijacked, for lack of a better word, by smaller bodied people. And then all of a sudden it changed the way you just love your body regardless. And unfortunately, if you've spent all your life hating your body, loving your body just seems like an irrational thought, like unfathomable.
mhm.
And so body neutrality is this place in the middle where I can choose not to love my body right now, but I also realize that hating my body isn't being very helpful to me, right? And my behavior. And so how do I just start to shift the focus away from what the body looks like? So it's that redirection away from appearance towards function and all the things that our body can do, and then starting to change the language. So instead of the inner critic and the comparison and the self-judgment all the time, being more curious and being more compassionate and kind to ourselves. And one of the baseline pieces in action is gratitude. How can I be grateful for this body?
Yeah.
How can I be grateful that my eyes can see my grandson play on the floor, and that my body can get down on the floor and get back up so that I can play a game down there,
Yeah.
or that I can hear the sound of the rain on the roof, or write the little things that I can write or I can create or I can tell a story. Just really trying to see the way that our body shows up for us every single day. And so those two pieces, being grateful and starting to shift the language around how we talk about our body, can be really impactful. Yeah.
How do you help people navigate all the messaging that's coming? I'm up to here with it, because I bought into it for so much of my life as a journalist and as a woman. And then I was in the middle part, and then now I'm really repulsed by, because you see it over, it's just trends, and now it's protein, and then it's
Yeah.
fiber, and then you need to lift heavy, which you don't need to lift heavy, you just need to lift heavier. And you need to be on a vibration plate, and you need to wear a weighted vest, and it's so exhausting. It just
Mm-hmm.
feels like we've earned the right at this age to relax and stop listening to this. I mean, maybe asking you for myself because I'm tired, but how do you just don't pay attention to it? Like, what do you do? Because it would give you an eating disorder or an exercise
Right.
disorder if you were on the fragile edge. People are forcing down protein. They're hurting
Mhm.
themselves in the gym lifting heavy.
They're listening to everything.
Yes.
They're listening to every other person's advice
Yeah.
as opposed to starting to listen to our own.
Um,
If we think about any diet that we were ever on, it was telling us what to eat, how much to eat, and when to eat.
yep.
Any exercise plan, how much to lift, how many sets, what to do, where's your heart rate, how long, right?
Yep.
None of that is listening to your body. And it's your body that really knows everything. This does not feel good. This feels great, right? And there is this part of the work that I do is curating our own social media, following people that make sense to us or that aren't all or nothing, aren't telling you what to do. It's like listening to the body and trying to find foods that feel good and try to find exercise and movement that feels good that I want to do and I'm excited to do rather than I have to do and I have to make sure I'm watching my Fitbit or whatever, right? There's so much out there. And one of the things that, I don't know if you ever heard this, the whole 10,000 step thing.
Yes.
Came out of just a person that was promoting, it was a marketing campaign
Yeah. For a
on a little
pedometer.
pedometer thing, right? And it wasn't anything
Yeah.
to be, and then we just grabbed onto it as a, this is going to do it.
Yeah.
And
This is
yet,
over and over and over. And it's like no one, it's like everyone's got the attention span of a gerbil because no one remembers that just a few years ago it was this and then it was that and then it was this. We all used to run and do cardio. We didn't do that because we just loved doing 90 minutes of Stairmaster. We did that because people were telling us that was what we should be doing.
yes,
Right?
exactly.
Like
Everybody was telling us, yeah,
I mean,
telling
I get
people.
annoyed when they always say women come into their 40s and they're doing all this cardio. And it's like, yeah, because that's what we thought we were supposed to be doing. Like, that's so frustrating. It's like, you just, there's just,
I know.
I just want to ask you, like, about the people who are benefiting from this, who that like, don't do this, do that. Don't do this my way. Do this, like that part of it. Did you fall prey to that? And how do you block that out?
I did for many years.
Yeah.
Right. But it's when you stop and pause long enough to say, wait a minute, where has that all gotten me? And it's this, I have to start choosing for myself. So exercise looks so different for me now, but that's because I listen to my body on a daily basis. What does it have good energy? Am I feeling pretty good today? Or is this like, I'm not gonna do anything today? Like that, I need to meditate today or journal or do something completely different. I think about this question. And so a lot of times just asking yourself this, what do I want to be able to do in my body going forward? And then with that said, I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to play with my grandkids. Oh, I want to be able to walk around that lake that I love because it's such a beautiful place to walk. Okay, if this is what you want to do, is your body capable and able of doing that? If we kind of put together a little program to do that thing, right? And we never really ask ourselves, like, what do I want to be able to do with my body?
Yeah.
I want to be able to be independent. So I walk so that I can walk.
Yeah.
It's not for any calorie burn or anything like that. It's because I
I'm
want to be able to
stretching so
walk.
that I can touch. I was thinking this last night. I was touching my toes. I'm like, yeah, I want to keep doing this until I have no more life in me. I want to always be able to touch my toes. So if I keep touching my toes, I'll always be able to touch my toes. Like I just had this
Right.
like illumination.
It's so, and that is exactly what it is. I
Yeah.
want to keep doing this so that I can keep doing
Yeah.
this.
Love that.
I want to be strong enough to put my crop
On my magic bullet when it makes a
Yeah.
smoothie and I'm like, "Rrr." I do feel that sometimes that people they just want to stay exactly the age they are and not get any older. That's the way I feel a lot of people on social media are. Like I feel like there's sort of an overarching fear of death and aging that is driving a lot of this. And
Yeah.
I don't know this. How have you made peace? Like it seems like you've made it slowly with just
Yeah, it's more of it's more of the self-talk and
yeah
saying, what have I learned? I've always blamed my body. My body's always been the problem, so I was passing blame on my body and then trying to do something to fix it. And now how do I look at what I've learned and continue to move forward? I'm going to continue to get older. Like the clock's not stopping. If I want to do things to change the way I look, do I continue? I have to ask that question. Do I want to continue to do those things?
yeah
And is that really that important for me?
okay
And I just realized that it's not, and my body is going to continue to change. And how do I make peace with it, where it's at? And there's I use this I call it the good gift, bad gift theory. And so if you've heard me talk on podcasts anywhere, right, I tend to use this because I think it's a really interesting theory. When we get a good gift from a friend of ours, we just treasure it, we take care of it, it's important to us. And when we get a bad gift, it kind of like goes off in the closet or it gets regifted or, it just
yeah
kind of disappears. And so I spent my whole life thinking of my body as a bad gift. And so you think about how did I treat it? Well, I did not treat it very kindly. I never listened to it. I beat it up. I pinched it, right? It was all of the things. So I really did not treat my body like a good gift. And as I age and continue to age, how can I treat my body like the good gift it is? Because without my body, I can't be talking to you now. I can't be doing the work that I do. I can't have the conversations or have the relationships that I have or learn the things that I learn on a I love to learn. I love to listen to people and learn from people and read books, and I love to be entertained and laugh. So like we do all of that through our body. And so how are we helping ourselves moving forward?
Okay, so I heard an endocrinologist the other day in the menopause space on an Instagram live talking about weighing yourself every morning and then calculating that water weight will change your weight. And I thought, oh my God, what am I seeing? I know you're a no way person. Can you just tell me what you think when you hear that?
Your body's going to fluctuate 2 to 4 pounds every single given day. And if the scale changes your mood or alters your behavior, it's not a good measure. We have lots of other ways that we can measure our overall well-being and our health. We do not need the weight on the scale.
Do
And
you
for
weigh
some
yourself
people,
ever? Do you?
no, nope. Only if I had to go into surgery and needed like a, anesthesia or something, that like that's the only reason that and I always turn backwards. I don't want to know.
Yeah. I started
No.
refusing at the doctor's. If it
Mhm.
was like a regular, like I was going to see the dermatologist, I'd say, I don't want to get weighed. Why are you weighing me? This is ridiculous. I'm not.
And you don't have to. And
No.
like I think that that's such an important point. So thank you for bringing that up. You don't have to get weighed.
No.
It's an insurance thing. So you can say no. And I think how many people are not going to the doctor because they don't want to get weighed.
Yeah. I mean, people that think ahead, I would always forget about it and then just be faced with it and then feel like crap. But some people think ahead.
Well, now after hearing this, hopefully you'll say next time if you don't want to go to the doctor because you're of a fear of getting weighed, just say you
I mean, especially if
just
you're
say
going
no.
through something and you're seeing quite a number of doctors, it can really get overwhelming, right? And it's just all their scales are different anyway. Those old scales with
Yeah,
it's like,
I know.
you
I
know,
know. And really they don't, like you said, they don't really need it unless it's a medication driven something or other. And if it's going to alter, it's going to make you have a bad day. Like why subject ourselves to those kind of
yeah.
things?
Okay, so if a woman is listening right now and she's like, well, you guys seem to have it figured out, but I'm feeling betrayed and frustrated and disconnected and like I have lost control of this thing, what's your guidance for where she can begin?
Yeah. Picking up a pen and a piece of paper and maybe writing a letter to their body, and you can be mad at your body and you can be grateful to your body. You can forgive your body. You can yell at your body. Like it allows the space for all the emotions that you might feel around your body. And here's the caveat to that kind of activity, because I think it can be really healing to be able to be angry. You didn't do, or you never looked, or whatever. I always say, read it back to yourself, maybe not right away, maybe like the next day, and then allow your body to write back. So it's a two-part activity to just let yourself talk to your body. And I love writing. If you don't like to write, you can do it with typing. I like free write because it's helpful for the brain. But you can also, verbally journal it. Here's into a phone. These are the things, and then listen back or read it back, and then allow your body to respond, because the body has some things to say too. Just I realize every day how I see people, their bodies are showing up for them. They may have never taken a walk on the beach, and then all of a sudden they find themselves walking on the beach, right? Or they just don't take the time to pause with their coffee in the morning and smell the coffee and taste the coffee and notice that this is all an experience that you get to have through your body. One of the phrases that can be helpful is your body is the vessel that you get to experience your life in. That's what our body's for, is to experience our life in it. And so it is starting with a kinder, more curious voice for yourself.
It's a relationship. We're examining
Hmm.
all our relationships at this time, so this is important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a very important one, right?
Where can people find you, Anne? Where can they engage with your work?
I am on Instagram and Poirier. I am on LinkedIn, and through my books, Amazon, or in your books in your local bookstore. So I have 3 different books, and one is my story that shares my eating disorder and then kind of my way out. And then I also have an 8 to 12-year-old book called Not a Fat Annie, which
I
is,
love that.
yeah, it's an
I'm an Annie.
anti-bullying.
I'm an Annie too, so
Uh,
I really like.
yeah, I know, and it's a little play on words. You got to read the book, but it's because the main character's name is Allie Rose, and so but Annie is part of the theme, but it is an anti-bullying, anti-body shaming, kind of weight stigma, self-talk, self-acceptance book to empower our next generation. And then my last book, which was just out this February, is called The Body Neutrality Playbook, where it has all of the activities and mindset shifts that I've used with all of my clients. And it has been researched by a couple of different research communities, and we're finding some really good results on noticing how we feel about our bodies can make an impact on our behavior. And that's what I've lived through and I've seen firsthand, and I wish for all of the people listening. How do we create a friendship with our body, have our body be our ally, not our enemy?
I love that. What a resource. Thank you so much, Anne, for talking to us about this. And I'm just so happy to talk to you. This is very close to my heart.
Thank you. I appreciate you and what you do to help all of us keep going.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Hot Flash Inc. was created and is hosted by Anne-Marie McQueen, produced and edited by Sonia Mack. The information contained in this podcast is intended for informational purposes only and is not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider, read all labels, and heed all directions and cautions that accompany the products. Information received through the podcast should not be used in place of a consultation or advice from a healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem, i.e. menopause or anything else, or any healthcare questions, please promptly see your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Anne-Marie McQueen and any producers or editors, disclaim any responsibility from any possible adverse effects from the use of any information contained herein. Opinions of guests on this podcast are their own, and the podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about a guest's qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. This podcast is owned by Hot Flash Inc. Media.